Welcome back to the channel, and in today's video we're doing a recap and review of Married at First Sight, Season 11, Episode 13, Home Alone. So if you are new here and you are enjoying the quality content that's being provided on the type of shows that we do, which is romantic reality TV review, please feel free to subscribe. Smash that subscribe button. And if you do like the video, engage in the channel and comment. You know, we enjoy reading the comments, and definitely we also do shout outs, which we do at the end of every video, so stay tuned for that. So let's get started. So as we see, it pretty much looks like a ghost town. This is the actual time when the Louisiana governor had just issued a stay-at-home order due to C-19. And then this is the first time in 11 seasons that Married at First Sight had to shut down production. And with production gone in the foreseeable future, couples had to document their lives together all on their own. So, with that being said, we're going to start with our first couple, which is Bennett and Amelia. And from the way it seems, from what they had been filming of themselves, is that they are doing well. Amelia decided to give herself a haircut. And that's the thing about when we were all shut down. You had to find a lot of different things to do at home to entertain yourself. And this conversation about them seeing mice in a particular area in town, they were talking about adopting them. Okay, I mean, honestly, it's not my thing, but obviously it's theirs. Again, this is Bennett and Amelia, so expect the unexpected. And then this thing is, I mean, they are just so comfortable with each other. I mean, he had her even scratching his nose. Bennett find an opportunity to go work on his house, to keep him occupied as well. And then they even decided to do their own indoor spa treatments for themselves. So they had cucumbers and they had masks on their face for their skin. And they're just so adorable. I mean, it's all about creativity, and they are creative people, so it made it a lot easier for them during the beginning of the pandemic. So she had her sit down with Dr. Pepper, and you know, Dr. Pepper's checking in to see how everything is going. Now, I will say that they actually ended up in this quarantine a lot longer than expected, because it's usually 8 weeks. By the time they started filming this, it was 10 weeks. So you're talking probably, I'm assuming, somewhere around April, because I think the shutdown was in the middle of March. So Amelia, you know, Dr. Pepper's checking in, how you doing? And Amelia was basically, you know, saying, hey, it's been intense, but we're enjoying each other. He told me that he loved me. I told him that I love him too. They have been volunteering at homeless shelters. And she likes the fact that Bennett gives her a lot of attention. She talked about the fact that she wanted babies, and I think in the next year or two. But Bennett was like, maybe in 5 years. And Dr. Pepper said, you know, this is something that you guys got to talk about, and that she needs to communicate what's important to her. And I totally agree with that. Y'all need to have a discussion when it comes to kids. So then Pastor Cal actually had a conversation with Bennett, checking in on him, seeing how he's doing. And, you know, Bennett was saying that they're doing a good job of taking care of each other. And that the conversation that really has been a little bit of contention was the whole thing about kids. And Bennett was saying, you know, he needs to make a career choice that's going to be able to benefit that. But he said that everything they're in an exceptional moment and flying by the seat of his pants. And that comment came because Pascal asked him about them now knowing where she's going to be sent for her residency, which we now, of course, know is in Richmond, Virginia. And he seems to be taking it in stride. And, Pastor Cal is like, well, hey, what are you going to do? Are you willing to take that trip? And the way that this show was edited, they actually made us wait to get his answer. Because at first it was like, and then it cut to a commercial. But I didn't expect anything different from Bennett. I mean, he loves this girl. And I figured that he wasn't just going to jump ship because she's going to further her career. So, I mean, I don't know if anybody else expected anything differently, but, I honestly believe that he was definitely going to work this out. So they actually came together to talk about their conversations with both Pastor Cal and the conversation that she had with Dr. Pepper. And he said, so was your conversations about monies and babies? And he said, what they ended up agreeing upon when it came to babies is that they're just going to wait till it's a good time for the both of them. And honestly, with her going into her residency and this traveling back and forth, yeah, I mean, it needs to be a good time for both, the parents involved, because they both got to make this work. And then he made an announcement saying, hey, I got something to tell you. I'm going to split time between Virginia and coming back home to New Orleans. And she was so excited about that. And that's what that is. It's compromise. They have conflict resolution down to a science. I totally believe. I mean, they're good at it. I think out of all of the couples, they'll come in as number one. And I'll let you guys know later who is number two at conflict resolution. But Amelia is just over the moon. I mean, he's talking about, I'm looking to build a home with you, and we're going to enjoy our space together. So I see a very great long future for the two of them. I mean, they know how to figure things out, and the fact that they're able to come together and sit down and talk about this, I didn't expect anything outrageous or Bennett going straight to the left in regards to the decision with her being sent out of town for residency. So the next question is, from here on out, since they got that resolved, what is going to be the next biggest issue? Maybe something comes up, but primarily that was the only issue that we had to deal with this couple from the get-go. So now that we know that Bennett is now agreeable to the fact of splitting time between the two cities, it's going to be interesting to see where they go from here. I mean, the sky is the limit for these two, and I am so happy. I really like them. I like the fact that they don't stand in judgment of each other or other people. So I think they're doing exceptionally well. I'm continually looking forward to watching them. So let's move on to our next couple, which is Woody and Amani. And they started out the show with Woody snoring his butt off. You talking about calling the hogs. That boy was tired. And I know he works as a school teacher. He's also an entrepreneur. So he has two other businesses that he runs from NOLA in LA as well. So I know he's been busy, and so has she, but she thought that was just hilarious, And so she said, I decided to tell him in my own special way that I love him. And she gave him 5 gifts that matches the 5 senses. I thought that was so creative. And the fact that she's now willing to say, I love you. So, and she was shocked that it's been so soon. And he was like, oh my God, look at my sweets. And I just so love these two. And obviously he loved the gift. And, they love each other. I love it. I love it. I love it. So they tried to throw us off a little bit with the whole thing with this DM situation. Because here's the thing. Amani went in on him talking about, let me see how many hoes you got in your DM. And that set off something which obviously made him upset. Like, wait a minute, hold on. We all have personal space when it comes to our cell phones. But they didn't stay on that long. And I know that a lot of people were really hanging their hats on from the previews. Oh my God, see, here's where the shoe is going to drop with Woody. Sorry, Because, see, I'm a Woody and Amani fan, and I figured either production is manipulating this as usual, or they're going to figure out the situation. And it was a little bit of both. And comment down below what you think. Do you think that cell phones are to each other and private? Or if this is a situation of, you should be able to share your cell phone. So Amani had a conversation with Dr. Pepper. And Dr. Pepper was asking, hey, have you had any major conflicts and how you doing? And she was like, no, it's been pretty easy going. We got a lot in common. We love to dance. We like to have a good time. We like to laugh and enjoy ourselves and act silly and fun. And she said the only other thing that we had to deal with is about the DMs, and she told her about what happened with that. But before we got to that, she also mentioned to Dr. Pepper that she told him that she loved him, but that Woody said it first. And, but Dr. Pepper wanted to make sure, how far they gotten and if they made that acknowledgement. And Amani definitely was like, yes, we did. And so she said, well, did you say I love you too? And she was like, it took me some time to get there, but I got there. So I was over the moon. She finally said it. And it's genuine. That's the thing. She wasn't pushed to say it. She said it when she was ready to. But again, with this whole DM situation, they really took this one short clip and hyped it up, and then come to find out Amani and Woody got over it, and how agreeable and understanding of her feelings that, okay, you know what, I get it. I can understand why you felt the way you feel. And she brought that to Dr. Pepper's attention, but because Woody thought it was invading his private space. And then she explained to him, that I was joking, but still, why you be so offensive? And they were able to work it out. Now, she didn't go into heavy details, but the fact of the matter, she said, we worked through it and we're fine. I'm absolutely so happy about that, because I'm telling you, there were a ton of people that was waiting for the shoe to drop on Woody. And sorry, not this time either, guys. So I am happy for these two. So Woody also had a conversation with Pastor Cal. And Pastor Cal like, hey, what's going on, And the biggest thing is also, too, which I'll touch on as well when they have their sit down, is the conversation about babies. That was another thing with them. But Pastor Cal was like, hey, what's going on? And he was like, I'm thinking about having babies. But other than that, we're good. And Pastor Cal was like, hey, dude, are you being safe? And he was like, yeah, you got to ask me that on TV? Really? Really? And he was like, yeah, I'm being safe. And Pastor Cal was like, okay, because, if you're not, that's the easiest way to get a kid, like right now. So, Pastor Cal just basically gave them advice, letting them know, you need to think this through, but it needs to be something that you two of you can both agree on. And he did bring up the whole conversation about the DM thing. And, he was like, what'd you say? Yeah, she wanted to check and see what was in my DMs. And I was like, well, what are we doing here? I mean, is that an invasion of privacy and things like that? And he said he got through it, and I understand where she's coming from. So they worked through it. And he told Pastor Cal the same thing, that, I like giving my wife gifts. I like our conversation. We're connecting on so many levels. I'm happy with her. This looked like this is going to be a forever thing. And he was, I'm happy to see that with these two. I am over the moon. They're one of my favorite couples. Amelia and Bennett is one of my couples. I mean, I watch and do reviews on several reality romance TV shows. And Amani and Woody, and if you watch Love Island and some of those shows, there's my favorite couple over there as well, too, Justine and Caleb. So, I'm telling you, in this particular situation, Pastor Cal was really proud of the progress that both Woody and Amani are making, But, he told them, you just got to be mindful of things are not going to always be easy, and it's how you deal with them when you come across these situations and how the two of you work through them. So, I mean, guys, comment down below what you think about how production hyped up this scene, had everybody expecting, and they made them the last couple of the day to talk about, which was so crazy. I said, boy, y'all ain't slick. But I think they thought they was. So I'm proud of them too. I am so proud of both Woody and Amani. So they had their sit down conversation to have a conversation about what they said to Dr. Pepper and to Pastor Cal. And their biggest conversation was about kids. And he was like, when are you looking to have babies? And she's like, oh, in about 2 years or so. And he's like, well, I want a Scorpio baby. Cause see, Woody is a Scorpio himself, and that's why she was like, if that baby is gonna be a Scorpio like you, I don't know. And she's being funny. And I like the fact that he didn't take it so seriously and like, oh, well, what do you mean by that? Those two really know how to work together. And he was like, you know what? I wouldn't even be talking about having no babies or anything if I didn't love this woman. I see her as something long term and something being with you forever. Because I ain't going nowhere. I have no plans to go anywhere. I'm loving me some Woody right now. And I know y'all didn't think about that at the beginning of the episode or the series because they made him look like this flamboyant player. But he has truly matured into the husband that he needs to be for Amani. And obviously Amani brings that out of him. And she's definitely, I think they're the perfect match because they bring different things out of each other. And it works so well together. And I honestly like the little cute heartsy hearts that they made with both their hands. Oh my God, I'm so proud of these two. Guys, I hope they hang in there. Believe me, one thing about relationships and marriage, it takes work. But they are my second couple that definitely have conflict resolution skills. They work through stuff. I mean, whether it was the hair issue, the baby issue, even this whole issue with them DMs and social media, they work through it. All right, let's move over to our couple who we lost this week, which was Brett and Olivia. So Brett started out, both of them started out pretty happy in this episode. I mean, he's cooking, he's cleaning the house, taking care of the cats. Now, with the pandemic, she's a nurse practitioner, so that means that she's working a lot because now she's considered an essential worker. And, he's not getting the time that he wants from her. And I really, truly think that these two could have worked if they just could have got out of their own way, honestly. He even said that one of his pet peeves is when they're watching movies, the fact that she always is on her phone. And I mean, honestly, if you're not spending a lot of time together, the time that you do have together, it needs to be quality. So I agree with him to a point, unless it was business related because she being on call or something, that's different. But if she's just surfing on the internet and stuff like that, when this is the only few moments in time you have to spend with your significant other, yeah, that's a problem. So he decides to, take some of his stuff out the house and, leave and everything. And it's just so crazy because he's at this point like, you know what, this ain't working, I'm having issues with everything with this pandemic. And the biggest thing is that she decided to go and visit her family out of state. And he was like, I don't think it's a good time to travel. We had a stay-at-home order. And granted, okay, here's the thing. I do see where she's coming from because she's checking on her family. I also see where he's coming from because he wants her to be safe. So where do they meet in the middle? And then she's a nurse, and he's scared of this whole thing. I think a lot of people were scared of the unknown, including myself at one point back in March, that what's the issue with C-19? And she just downplayed it, and he was like, but I'm afraid of this. And she was like, why are you afraid? So you casting his fears aside. As a nurse practitioner, educate him and let him know to put his mind at ease instead of saying, get over it, pretty much. Why are you scared? So she had a conversation with Dr. Pep, and she was like, oh, there's no growth, there's no communication. He's afraid of C-19, about me traveling and being concerned and everything. And Dr. Pep, like, hold on. Where's your accountability in this? Because we've been watching you. And I was looking at her face like, ooh, Dr. Pepper ain't playing. I'm like, yeah, what's your accountability in this? Because she definitely have some. They both do. I'm not going to make this all about Brett or Olivia. They both do. And he decided to move out. He was just done. She called him and she was like, you took everything. There's no food. And he was like, there's no food. The only thing you left is the coffee pot. And he's like, oh, I left the coffee pot. I'm like, wow. Brett is so done. He is just so over this whole thing. So Dr. Pepper is like, you know what? Sit down and have a conversation. Do you want to give up? She had some thoughts about it. And Olivia's like, you know what? I really don't want to give up. I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to have a conversation. So we have Pastor Cal have a conversation with Brett. Pastor Cal says, what happened and why you leave the house? He starts out talking about how the cats are fighting. So I had to remove my cats and take them back to my house. I'm like, Brett, really? Don't start out to giving half-truths. And Pastor Cal caught him on that. And he was like, yeah, did you just move the cats? Oh, you moved the cats and you too. And honestly, that's just be honest. And he did. After Pastor Cal was like, we're not playing games here, he said, you know what? We definitely have some fundamental differences. Plans, talking about kids, traveling, and money is just not on the same page, which are big things. I do agree. If one person don't want kids or are half-hearted about it and the other person does want kids, that's going to be a problem. If the person is a homebody or want to stay local and a person is a worldwide traveler and you two don't agree on that, that's going to be a problem. And then when it comes to money, if somebody want to spend frivolously and the other person is extreme budgeter and nobody want to budge or compromise, that's going to be a problem. And Brett said, you know what, we got to the point after all these weeks and especially been in this experiment longer than expected, we friend zoned each other. And, honestly, we're not the best option for each other. And I honestly believe when you realize that you're not here, you need to communicate that, which they did have a conversation. And Olivia's like, hey, what are you thinking? Is this something we can work out? I would like to work out with you. And Brett was blunt as usual. No thanks. I'm not interested. No thanks. He's done. He checked out. I don't know. We didn't see everything up to the point he left until this conversation, but he definitely checked out. As much as it hurts, Olivia, because she got into this process, at the same time, you don't want anybody to waste your time. She needs to move on, and so does he. And they need to find people who fit each other fundamental priorities. So good luck to the both of them. Let's move on to Miles and Karen. So this one was pretty interesting. Miles is now starting to feel the pressure, especially with everything that's going on with this pandemic. Karen is worried about his depression coming out. She's been at the hospital a lot because she works as a program director there. And there's been no time for a relationship. That's what the both of them has basically said. And Miles is at the point, like, we're like two ships passing in the night. She's distant. I'm in the house by myself all the time. She's never here. And when she is here, there's no connection. And he's like, you know what? This girl hasn't even said she want me. So I don't know what to do at this point, and she leaves, go to work, and comes home. And she's basically, saying, um, it hasn't been any movement. Everything seems to be stagnant, and it's just not going anywhere. And I just need to see what happens if, in fact, if this, being at home is going to be a big effect on me. And he's been leaving and not coming back. And it's like, oh my God, you guys are making this so much more harder than what it has to be. And the thing is, Miles have been trying for weeks. We are now at week 10, and he has gotten nowhere. And Karen she's just not there yet. So she had a conversation with Dr. Pepper. And Dr. Pepper is like, hey, what's going on? And Karen is like, hey, the good part is that Miles do such sweet things. We do sweet things for each other. But at the same time, it's just like I'm worried about him being genuine. And she goes to all of that. And fixing her food. And I'll get to that part that Dr. Pepper called her out on. And this is something that probably should have happened earlier with Dr. V and even Pastor Cal when they had a sit-down conversation. But Miles is he's flustered. And Karen is saying, oh, I don't know, we're taking things slow. And Dr. Pepper is like, you know what? We've been watching you and we've been getting notes on you. And you're not giving encouraging comments and calling him with feminine traits. And she clapped back, Karen did, was like, you know what? I need him to be that masculine man I need him to be. I don't need him to be my girlfriend because he called me sis at one point. But I'm like, hold on. You tripping because he called you sis, but you call him child. And you make all of these little references of him, of his age, and like the comment of last week episode about him not learning how to swing to 12, she thought that was the right answer because that would explains a lot if he didn't learn how to swing on a swing till the age of 12. She throw digs at him, but the moment that now she's being called out, then it's like, oh my God, you hurt my feelings. You can't be dishing it out at the same time, can't take it, Karen. And I'm glad that Dr. Pepper called her to task on that. She needs to deal with the fear that she has in regards to the situation. And it seemed like Karen got kind of a little defensive. Listen, I understand that you have this idea of what the traditional constructs of what a masculine man is. But I can probably say if he was this emotionally unavailable, inconsistent, not making calls back, being, rude and dismissive and all of these other things, then you'll say that he's not sensitive enough. Which one do you want? Now, granted, there could be a balance, but Miles is who he is. He's treating you with what you would want. But if that's something that's not going to be comparable for her, she needs to figure out if she wants to stick with this or not. Because in the process, you're damaging Miles because he's trying. So hopefully, she'll figure it out and work it out with them. On the flip side, Pastor Cal had a conversation with Miles, and checking in. Miles, hey, what's going on? And he said that he expected, and this is Miles, said he expected the time together to be fun, especially being in close quarters, being able to get to know each other even more. And he said that's just not the reality. He doesn't feel cared for or cared about. There was the comment about, hey, what's the best thing about this pandemic? And she says there's an extra room. And I'm like, come on, Karen, really? But then you get mad at him for him calling you sis. You throw digs at him all the time. I can understand why this guy feels the way he do. And he says that he don't like the fact that Karen calls into question his masculinity. That pisses him off. And that she's just not ready for a progressive dude like me. And that's what he said. And honestly, there are women that's just not ready for that nice guy. It's the truth. Because they're so used to the damage, the mean, the, again, emotionally unavailable, toxic masculinity type of dude, that when it comes to somebody like a Miles, they don't know what to do with that. Either they feel it's too good to be true or they too soft. And that is so unfortunate, because now there's a guy who could be treating you the way that you need to be treated right there in front of you, but you need that edge. I've even heard women, not in my close inner circle, but friends of friends, who made that statement. They had good guys in front of them, and they actually said, oh, he's a good guy, but he doesn't have enough edge for me. And that same person is with somebody who has been cheating on her and a whole other things, and they still with this person. So, I mean, honestly, Karen, I hope you guys can figure this out. And they did have a sit-down conversation. It seems as if there was some headway, because Miles put his foot down, and Pastor Cal told him, you need to be direct with her and say, listen, this is how this makes me feel when you do this. And he did that. And Karen was like, you know what? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to come across the way that I did. I need to change that. And then they started laughing and joking, because now it acknowledges Miles for a change, instead of all about him placating to her and how she feels. Now she has to deal with how he feels. And they like the fact that he can remember them having fun together. This is the same episode last week when they were on the swing and everything. And they went back to that. And I honestly think that they could really be good for each other if, you know, part of it, Karen let that fear go, and Miles need to communicate and be stern about it. All right, let's move on to Henry and Christina. Oh my goodness. So Henry's working from home, because he also working hospital administration type work. He and Christina been cooking and cleaning. And the thing is, Henry had a birthday, and she totally forgot his birthday. And the crazy thing is that Henry was like, because his friend bought a cake by and everything. And his friend, he said, if the shoe was on the other foot and I forgot her birthday, I wouldn't hear the end of it. And he's probably correct. How did you forget this dude's birthday? Now, granted, I know they've been together for about 2 months, but you forget his birthday? Wow, Christina. So, I mean, they're basically just like two ships passing in the night. He goes to work and everything. But what has been concerning to him is the fact that, oh, and there's the birthday cake. Happy birthday, whenever that was. I'm assuming that was in either middle March or early April. But, it's just been a disconnect. And honestly, I don't even think these two are in a friend zone. I don't even see a friendship here. You know how Brett was saying that he was in a friend zone before they broke up? I don't even see a friend zone here. So Henry had a big concern about her saying she's going for a walk, but she's dressed up with makeup and everything on, and didn't come back home till 3 o'clock in the morning. She sends a text saying, I'm helping a friend out, but then she comes back in, and he looks on social media, and she was out with her friends at a bar or whatever, which I don't even know how that was able to be done with a shutdown. But that reminds me of Taylor from last season. Remember that, guys? So back to Christina. She has a sit down with Dr. Pepper and, of course, asking what's going on, doing a check in. And she complains about the fact that he's always leaving and going to his place, and he goes past the grocery store 2 times a week. And he goes past the flowers and go gets food, but he don't think about me in the process. And Dr. Pepper did, like she did Karen, call her to task. Okay, wait a minute. Is it you or is it him? And then Christina actually said it's both of us. And, she's getting emotional and all of that. Dr. Pepper said, you need to tell him what you need, and she was saying that, there are few opportunities, that we do have together, but it looked like he cares. And Dr. Pepper's like, okay, you need to get out of your comfort zone, step up to the plate, hold hands, and give him a roadmap to know what you're looking for and what your needs are. Can you do that? And she was like, okay, I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to sit down and have that conversation with him, to let him know, how I feel and what I need. So that's where they left that at. So Pastor Cal had a conversation with Henry, and he's asking Henry, okay, how is it going? And he says that, oh, pretty much it's been going okay, but he's been noticing that there has been a pattern of dishonesty when it comes to her living situation, and that it seems like she's living nowhere. I mean, that she's been living from this Airbnb. He told her in the beginning that she lived in some place, and it will sound like some initial CMBP or something like that. I couldn't quite grasp it, and if you guys know what I'm talking about, or if you're from the area, let me know what he meant by that. But seems like that she's homeless, and he doesn't understand why that is. Now, here's my question, because when the experts vetted each individual and they looked at their applications and everything, they had to know whether or not these people live in the area or verify their addresses or anything. And that's the interesting thing, is Pastor Cal didn't look surprised by that statement, because if it was in fact that she lied about something or omitted something, I would think they'd be like, oh, really? We need to check into that. Maybe without going into a lot of detail on TV screen. But I'm wondering if they do know where she lives or is aware of her living situations, because it seemed like, Pastor Cal didn't see that as a big deal. But he also brought up the whole conversation about, the going out at night. And Pastor Cal was like, you guys need to talk. If you want to work this out, work it out. So they had their sit-down conversation, and it started off for a brief moment fine until Henry said, I told him that you're being dishonest with me about your living situation and things like that, and she started getting defensive. And I don't know what you're talking about. And I told you where I live. And I just think that in order to get to the truth, Henry could have approached it a little differently and say, hey, I want to talk to you about something. Tell me exactly, because I know you told me that your stuff is here and there. Where exactly do you live? And give her the option to give you an answer. And then if you find dishonesty, then bring it to the table. He started out. And granted, Pastor Cal told him you need to address her head on. And he was like, I don't know if I can do that. And Pastor Cal was like, yeah, you can. You're doing it with me. I saw him and we saw him do it with Amani. Do it with Bennett. You can do it with her too. It's not like she's going to bite your head off. Anywho. But back to this conversation, he was like, I don't understand. I do want to work it out with you. I'm trying to get to know you. And she just shut down. She was like, I was going to actually come out of my comfort zone and start to reach out to you. But you know what? I'm shutting down and I'm emotionally exhausted. And she walked off. So, guys, let me know what you think about this conversation and how Henry handled it. Did he handle it the right way, or should it went differently? And then at the end of the show, he said he gets a text message how Christina wants to talk to him, and that she got a text message about possibly him seeing another man. And he's like, oh my God, that is not true. I wouldn't sign up for a show to be with a woman if, in fact, I was a gay man. So I guess we'll get to the bottom of this. I've heard other things on social media about folks thinking this is the situation. I disagree. I don't think he's that callous to do that. He seems like a nice guy. And from other things that I know coming up, it seems like he is not that way, but we'll see. All right, so let's do our post notification shout outs. And if you guys want to shout out, comment down in the comment section. I'll shout you out. So the first one is for Giovanni Diamond. He wrote me a long paragraph. Thank you so much for your insight. I really appreciate it. Deborah Williams, thank you so much for engaging in the channel. Keep the comments coming. And then last but not least, Ann MR. Thank you so much. And yes, I'm rooting for Amani and Woody and Amelia and Bennett as well. So if you enjoyed the content, like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you next week.